Welcome everyone to the sixth round of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. On your screen is Syzmon Gumularz. Syzmon Gumularz is a Polish grandmaster with an ELO of 2590, born in 2001. He's 23 years old and is the current Polish number 3 behind Duda and Wojtaszek. And he's been playing fantastically well in this tournament. Syzmon has managed to beat Bere, Oparin, and has drawn with Firuza and Nodirbek Yakuboev, and they're a very nice, just waiting there. And Nihal comes in, starts the clock, and Gumularz has the white pieces. He's thinking here and opens with pawn to d4. Let's see what Nihal Sarin comes up with next. Knight f6. Does he go d5? Nihal has had a pretty fine tournament until now. He is on 3.5 points out of 5. And he's managed to score wins against Leon Mendonça and Aram Hakobian. And there you see him calmly adjusting his pieces. He's already taken up close to 2 minutes on the clock and now plays his pawn to d5. Gumularz plays his pawn to c4. And Nihal, now what does he do? He's capable of playing just about anything these days. He can play any opening. He takes on c4, d takes c4, queen's gambit accepted. And knight comes out to f3. And now knight to f6 played by Nihal. And e3, trying to take this pawn here on c4. e6 is considered as one of the most solid weapons out there for black. Bishop takes c4. And you break in the center with pawn to c5, which is what Nihal does. He pushes his pawn to c5. And now Syzmon just castles here. Many different ways to play, but by far the main move for black here is pawn to a6. But Nihal comes back, and does he have any new idea up his sleeve? He takes on d4, and it's an interesting new idea that he has. Pawn takes. He's ready to give up the tension. And one of the disadvantages of taking quickly on d4 is that you open up the bishop's path. So Gumularz gets his knight to c3, and this is exactly what white wants. He can go bishop g5, rook e1, queen e2 or queen d3, rook d1, and it's a typical isolated queen pawn position. It's called IQP position, isolated queen pawn. Rook e1 brings the rook on the open file here, semi-open file, and pawn to a6 with the idea of b5, bishop b7. Let's see what Gumularz does here. It's always a question whether white should go d5 or not, because you get rid of your isolated pawn, but you also kind of simplify things a bit too much. The bishop came to f4. I mean, I would have maybe thought bishop g5 was a better square for the bishop. Nihal plays pawn to b5. Bishop comes back to b3. And now bishop to b7 looks very logical. And you can see that Nihal just thinking about his move, puts his bishop on b7. And for the time being, it's not possible to break on d5. Now there's enough control on that square. So he goes rook c1. I like how he's just bringing in the pieces, and also now have to be careful about some bishop c7 business here. And very interesting move, bishop b4 by Nihal, because I think knight d7, he didn't like the fact that d5 was possible. So that's the reason why bishop b4, and now bishop g5, pinning here. And Nihal goes knight to d7. He brings his knight to d7, defends his other knight. Also d5 here doesn't make so much sense as the knight is pinned. So a3, asking the question to the bishop. You can go back to e7, but you could also take here on c3, and Nihal does it. He takes on c3. If pawn takes c3, it kind of weakens the c4 square, also the a3 pawn. So he takes on c3 with a rook, and Nihal quickly brings his rook to c8, offering a trade here. If rook takes c8, he's ready to take back with the queen, maybe at some point also put the queen on this diagonal. Rook to e3 played here. And now he's doubled the rook on the e file. And Nihal brings his queen to c7, taking control of the c file. The position is roundabout even, and Syzmon tries to go knight e5 to quickly trade off some pieces. The best move for Nihal is to take the knight. And now notice, if bishop takes f6, you have knight g6, shoring up your king side. So that's the reason why taking on e5 back makes a lot of sense. He takes back with the pawn here, attacking the knight. And now very important move that Nihal has, I'm pretty sure, seen queen c6, because otherwise he could get under tremendous attack if he moved the knight. Rook h3, queen h5 would have been like a killing attack. But now this little inconvenience. Rook f3 played, trying to block here. There was also possibility to play f3, but then what was the rook doing here? So rook f3 makes sense. And Nihal now has to decide between knight d5, which is perhaps not that great because of rook g3. So he goes knight e4, which is the best move there. And he attacks the bishop on g5. The bishop goes back to h4. And now a very good move here is h6. Nihal showing some incredible calculations here, plays h6, keeping good amount of time on the clock, 45 minutes. And Gumularz comes down to 10 minutes on the clock, plays rook f4, but it's a massive blunder. You can see here there are tactics in the air. And look at Nihal coming in. Has he spotted the tactics? His time shows 44 minutes. Nihal is one of the most incredible tacticians out there. And he takes like, what? I'm not sure. Just a minute, under a minute, goes knight c3. It's a mate threatened here and attacking the queen. Queen g4 or queen f3. He plays queen f3. And now there is a beautiful move that Nihal has. Okay, queen f3 also is pretty good, but there is a killer blow, knight e2 check. What a move. If queen takes, there's a mate, he resigns. If rook takes, queen c1 is checkmate. What an incredible, and you can see Abhimanyu Mishra standing there completely shocked. And what a beautiful tactic, guys. Nihal signs there, he wins in 22 moves. I want to look at this position one more time. It's a fork here. You can't take on e2 because of g2 hanging. And you can't take on e2 here with the rook because of back rank mate. Incredible, incredible. Brilliant, and kudos to Nihal for winning this and moving on to 4.5 out of 6.